Hello everyone. We are on our channel about smart cities, about leaders in this area, and today we are speaking with Mayor of City of Vaughan from Canada, Mr. Maurizio Bevilacqua. Thank you, Mr. Maurizio, for your time, and I ask you to discuss about results that now City of Vaughan has. And first question, what are the main approaches that help the City of Vaughan place the leading edge of innovation to adopt to a growing community that values sustainability and creativity?
Well, Yuriy, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for this great opportunity to join you to talk about smart city initiatives and how important they are in setting a new trend globally. In my view, the smart cities initiatives are really about improving the quality of life and standard of living for everyone. Smart cities have great potential to really improve the quality of life in ways that makes life more convenient, more productive, more efficient, more meaningful, and more purposeful. I think at times we view smart cities just as an issue of, for example, the new apps that are available, but it's much more than that. There is a component that speaks to an important issue, which is creating a place, a sense of belonging for the population to express itself in a very meaningful way, to also cooperate, to play on each other's strengths, to augment the capacity that exists within communities to face the challenges that each community may be facing in a way that I think speaks to how individuals collectively can cooperate, gather the energies, the aggregate energy that exists within the population to address key concerns and key challenges, whether it's in transit, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in the environment, whether it's sustainability, whether it's in the way we interrelate as human beings. So the smart city is essentially our great ability to to pool our resources together, share in a common vision, have a well-defined purpose as to how we proceed in human terms, in economic terms, in social terms, in cultural terms, in spiritual terms, towards building something that is greater than all its parts. And I do want to express myself in this way, because I do believe that smart cities have a broader appeal than just what sometimes we pigeonhole in just talking about the technological side. I think that the smart city initiative ought to be broadened to bring into play, to bring into discussion, into debate, issues that go beyond the technological capacity of smart cities. And that's the reason why I introduced this topic of that there's also an element of community capacity that speaks to really also the human spirit. And by that I mean, how do we use the smart cities initiatives throughout the world to create a better world, a more caring, compassionate a global society where people are there to help each other out in a way that speaks to the higher frequencies of life, and that is how do we help the human condition. And I want to underline this point for a very important reason, is that as leaders and as individuals who care about building a better world, we have to focus on how a smart city initiative and a smart city outlook ultimately improves the human condition. How does it address some of the key issues that go beyond the technological application of many of the things that we talk about when we talk about smart city? So the broadening of this discourse, the broadening of this topic is essential today because a lot of the attention has been given to the practicality of a smart city, where I think that the potential of the smart city or of a dialogue about smart cities goes well beyond that. It has the capacity to address some of the inequities that exist in our society. It has the great ability to embrace and bring into the fold issues that perhaps have been pushed aside sometimes because, quite frankly, they may be inconvenient to bring forward. But I do think that the broader approach, Yuriy, and we were talking about it earlier, the broader approach provides us with an opportunity to bring more of society into the fold. And if we're very serious about developing smart cities, and I think we are, I think we all understand the benefits of it, we must never forget the human dimension and the important vehicle that smart cities can in fact provide towards incredible change in societies to address many other issues that perhaps are left by the side. I do think that that this broader approach, what it will do is it will draw more players into and more voices into this dialogue about smart city, in many ways making it more democratic. I think you would agree with me, Yuriy, when I say that it's been kind of specialized. It's been narrowcast in many ways. It hasn't been broad enough to and in many ways when we do that, when we don't broaden the debate, when we don't bring more voices into the dialogue, into the debate, into the discussion, into the discourse, what happens is it limits the ability of smart cities to really elevate the discussion to a level that personally I feel is worthy of attention. Before I go any further, though, Yuriy, I do feel that I need to tell you a little bit about my city to give you context, to make you understand of the great sort of dynamic spirit, the vibrant spirit that the city of Vaughan has here. We have a population of approximately 335,000 people. I've been mayor since 2010, and to put it in perspective, the dynamic nature of our economy, 10 years ago, there were 60,000 fewer jobs in my city. We have 19,000 businesses that have created over 230,000 jobs over time. One thing that I'm sure you'll be interested in knowing, given your interest in the global scene, is that we speak over 100 languages in our city. And people from all over the world choose the city of Vaughan as their home. And to give you a sense as well, and I can speak to you about the years that I've been mayor, and prior to that, just sort of from a frame of reference, I was a member of parliament for 22 years and represented the city of Vaughan in Ottawa. I served in the Prime Minister Chrétien's cabinet as Minister of State for Science, Research and Development, as well as Minister of State for Finance. And so the whole issue of smart cities has been very important to me for a number of years for obvious reasons, because of the impact it has on human life. And during these years, so in our city, we saw a subway coming. We're the first municipality outside of the city of Toronto to be connected to the city of Toronto. We're the only municipality in the so-called 905 belt and beyond that has a subway connected to the city. And I think I will look back at this as a way to also talk a little bit about the smart city initiative that the subway is also a big part of. And just recently, we also opened the first smart technology hospital in the entire country, the City of Vaughan Hospital. It's a $1.8 billion hospital that is, during COVID has become a important health resource in our city. And we're talking about COVID earlier prior to coming on the air. And that's played a very important part. But the smart technology hospital is very much in keeping, of course, with our determination to build a smart city. And in that area, Yuriy, what we have is around 80 acres of land. 80 acres of land that will be dedicated to something that we call the hospital precinct. And the hospital precinct, above and beyond having this world-class hospital, what we are now looking forward to is to build an innovation park, health sciences faculty from universities that are interested in working with us. And how do we're having this discussion about the smart city. How is that related to smart city? Well, I often say a smart city is a thinking city. It's a city that is able to leverage, particularly in this case, since I am a government official, I will talk about leveraging public infrastructure to improve the quality of life for people. And you probably have noticed that I keep stressing the issue of quality of life as it relates to smart city. Because ultimately for me, the smart city is a city, and ultimately the litmus test, I should say, for a smart city is a city that improves the quality of life and the human condition in that city. And so when we are talking about the hospital, and then from the hospital, you leverage that investment into attracting other pieces of infrastructure in, let's say, health sciences and innovation, and creating an innovation hub for that area, then what happens is this is yet the manifestation of our commitment to building a smart city where the different pieces of the community are connected, because I do think that one of the principles of building a smart city is the maximization and utilization of existing resources to generate further resources focused on building a greater community capacity. And so a smart city, let's say in the case of the hospital precinct, 80 acres of land dedicated to the smart city objective, what you will see is a world-class hospital that welcomes other partners in that parcel of land of as I stated earlier, of over 80 acres to augment the capacity in the healthcare system. What does that do? And why is that smart? It is smart because you are creating a multiplier effect and you are taking measures that enhance ultimately the healthcare capacity of the city, but in an interconnected way that provides a greater opportunity to enhance the quality of life. And you probably noticed, Yuriy, that I go back to quality of life a lot and standard of living, because ultimately the discourse has to crystallize itself into something that is also practical and measurable. So whether you're talking about, if we can go back south of my city where the new subway is, what does that do? Well, that enhances transit network. It enhances productivity. It also, in many ways, enhances the ability of people to move from one place to another and to do it in a way that is easier, more convenient, and more accessible. That is really the embodiment of the practicality and the practical application, I should say, of what a smart city is. Because you need to ultimately measure, how are you in a city context going to identify whether or not your smart city strategy is working, and what are the tangible results. And I will submit that if we were to broaden the discussion of smart city beyond the technological application of the various services and or apps and all this new technology that is now available, in its practicality, a smart city is also a city that recognizes that public investments need to essentially have tangible results. And so the smart city, we have, with the subway, we have introduced obviously major technological advancement in transit, but it's also Yuriy, a very important element of it has been the economic development, right? So in that area called the Vaughan Metropolitan Center, as a result of our investments, public investments in our city, we now are at, it's called the Vaughan Metropolitan Center. It's our new downtown core that we've built around the subway. We are now at 267% of our projected growth, which means that in that area, you had 30,000 people that were going to work, live, and play in that area. Now we're getting close to the neighborhood of 70 to 75,000. And what does that mean? Well, it means that something that was really a smart city outlook and philosophical positioning has resulted in tangible results. And for example, in our region of 1.2 million people, believe it or not, we do not have a university. We did not have a university until Niagara University came. I personally sought the university out. I went to the United States and was looking for a university that would focus on education. And why was that important to me? It was important to me because I think building educational capacity in a city is part and parcel of creating a smart city. And accessibility to education is very much in keeping with that. But I also zeroed in on going after a university that really focuses on education. And so, to give you an example, 6,000 teachers in the Ontario education system are graduates of this university, Niagara University. And they've expanded, and we've had many conversations about this, very much in keeping with our Smart City initiative, expanded in areas that are growing areas. For example, they now deal, for example, they have a master's in cybersecurity. And as you know, that is very important in not just my part of the world, also in your part of the world and throughout the globe. And why is that important? And why do I view that as a smart city initiative? Because quite frankly, cybersecurity is something relatively new in the sense of it's a new area of study. and always in back of our mind, what we have is this notion and this commitment to make sure that we are avant-garde, that we are taking on challenges that are modern challenges. And so everything is interconnected. And I think by now you're probably realizing that smart city is not something that you can isolate in just one area of your city. It's very integrated. Yeah. It's codependent. There's an interconnectedness that speaks to utilizing every single ounce of energy and resources towards that end, of always meeting the litmus test of quality of life and standard of living. And so if we can travel from the hospital example that I gave you about the hospital precinct, which and by the way, since I am talking about that, part of our hospital precinct, one of the major moves that we've made that is very consistent with our smart city strategy has been the partnership that we've created with an organization called Venture Lab, that is very much at the forefront of innovation in Ontario and in Canada, as well as Mackenzie Health, which is, by the way, the organization that is responsible for our hospital, that manages our hospital, and York University, which is one of the largest universities in the province of Ontario, and of course the City of Vaughan. And since we are on this topic, as it relates to the smart city initiatives worldwide, I underline the importance of partnership. The importance of partnerships are perhaps one of the most important determinants of success in a smart city strategy, because it allows us to draw from various areas of specialization and also to attract the very best and brightest in all areas. So when you look at our partnership with the four partners, so you have Mackenzie Health, which with the Cortulucci Vaughan Hospital is going to really catapult nationally as one of the top hospitals in the country. You have Venture Lab that deals a great deal with national, domestic, and international innovation. Then you have a premier organization and university like York University, one of the, as I stated earlier, one of the largest in the province of Ontario and Canada. And then, of course, all this is anchored to the City of Vaughan. And why is our presence important? Our presence is important because we have a panoramic view of our entire city. We understand where the resources lie. We understand where the challenges lie. And we try to bring in as many partners. And in a smart city strategy, cities should not be shy in seeking out help, because we are not experts in everything. We may be experts in municipal government. We may be experts in certain areas where we specialize, but you need to draw people to make sure that you're getting the best advice, and collaboration and cooperation is extremely important. So from there, we go, I'm taking you on a little bit of a survey here of sort of a panoramic view of my city and interrelated to the reality of smart cities. So you go from the subway, you recognize that public investment has spurred on economic growth that has brought jobs and residents in the area. And then you have, from there, I took you to the hospital and I explained that to you. And then in an era of environmental sustainability, what becomes very important is the issue of green spaces. And that's part of the Smart City initiative. Why is that? Because it goes back to quality of life. It goes back to intergenerational equity. It goes back to all those issues that speak to our commitment to provide the best life experience that our residents can have. And so our investment in transit, they do that because obviously it's got an environmental component. But to put it in perspective of how committed we are to our Smart City initiative and how we have been able to broaden the vision of Smart City, Yuriy, you'd be surprised to know that we have now in the City of Vaughan a park that is 900 acres, which is larger than New York Central Park, quite frankly. And how do I connect that to the Smart City? Smart City is also, above and beyond providing quality of life for citizens, Smart City have to have a future focus. They have to have a future focus, so they have to address the present, but always have an eye to the future. And if they can, what smart cities will do is they will participate in an exercise that I refer to as bringing the future to the present. In other words, envisioning what the future is going to look like. And so when I envision the future of my city, I envision an area that is going to have, many, many people living in it, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. And 100 years from now, 200 years from now, you can imagine how valuable green space is going to be. As you see in the Greater Toronto area, undergoing a population explosion, people will have to find ways to have places where they can literally clear their mind and breathe. A smart city also has to, because a smart city is focused on the quality of life, it must also take care of the mental health of people, the physical well-being of people, and it must also, quite frankly, make the type of investments that we've made in our city, which is opening up a 900 acre park. And I must tell you that as a result of that vision, what has inspired some of the developers in our area, and we are one of the fastest growing municipalities in North America, is that they are willing to give up hundreds of acres of land as part of their development, because they begin to recognize, and I think you would agree with me, that that COVID-19 has in many ways accentuated the importance of building cities that take care of people's mental health. Yeah. And that's, I would say, something that COVID-19 has really accentuated. It has done two things. It has, first and foremost, made us realize that mental health is really, really important, extremely important. And the other issue has been that COVID-19 has also taught us that at the end of the day, it has really highlighted the incredible polarization that is occurring between classes. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, the middle class in many countries is shrinking, and a smart city needs to also understand that. How do you use those tools to level the playing field? And that is the reason why, Yuriy, when I was deciding to talk today about a smart city, I thought that our contribution collectively, mine and yours, is to really bring to light the importance of broadening the definition and making people understand that smart city conversations are not merely academic conversations. They're real life conversations that have a real impact on people's lives and can be used as a tool to create more like fairer and more just societies for all the participants that live within it. And I was fascinated to find out how, that we spoke about earlier about the park, that 900 acre park, and how the private sector has now embraced that thought as part of their own philosophical approach towards city building. And that to me is an incredibly powerful shift in the development industry's approach, and also a greater sense of responsibility, which is also a theme, by the way, Yuriy, that we need to tackle, is how can smart cities initiatives essentially enhance the role of the individual within society, with a view to exercise that responsibility for the improvement of the quality of life for people, and also to play a role in addressing some of the challenges of the human condition. And so while this discussion's about, whether I'm talking about the smart technology hospital, or great investments that people are making in making municipal services more accessible, more open to people, it's very important to make sure that throughout this transformation, we don't create a technological divide between people.
Yeah.
And I think the democratization of smart city is key, because those who need help the most may be the ones that are suffering as a result of the technological divide because of lack of accessibility. And that to me is one of the key issues that I think smart cities can in fact address in a very meaningful way. So what began really at the beginning of the discussion, and at the beginning of the emergence of thinking around smart city initiatives globally, were, how do you use technology to make things easier for people, is actually has greater potential when you really stop and think about it. It has greater potential in creating societies and cities that are not divided according to various economic, social, cultural, and spiritual positioning, but actually come together and are able to help each other out, which is ultimately what the type of society that we should be aiming at. And so I've covered a few areas here. The interconnectedness between economic growth and public infrastructure investment and technology and these and other issues that we touched upon, and then the importance of crystallizing in aggregate terms and in real terms the impact of our commitment to smart cities. Overall, I do think that this type of approach is an approach that is more comprehensive, more holistic. It embraces more facets of society. It tends not to leave people behind, because we are welcoming everybody's input. We are thinking of everyone. It's not an exclusive club. Smart city initiatives are not just part of those who can be very articulate in technological terms. Smart city initiatives are all embracing, and it really, the word itself, smart, means that we have to be intelligent about what we do. That we're utilizing our resources, and we have to be efficient, which means efficiency is minimum input for maximum output. So whatever resource we're using, let us use it in a way that is benefiting the greatest number of people, that is also creating conditions for a greater potential growth. And that to me is fundamental. I mean, I gave you the example of how an idea of talking about a 900-acre park and turning that into reality has actually had an impact on the development industry and their approach. That's just one example. The example of the hospital is yet another one, where we can, in fact, see the importance of being committed to a smart city, but also thinking smart, which I think is fundamental in in making sure that we're using these technologies and these approaches to really ameliorate and try to, I should say, try to address some of the challenges. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, because I do think that context and understanding my city is extremely important. And of course, you probably know this. I started back in 20. In my first couple of terms, the Smart City Initiative, because I felt that we needed to really begin to understand it, to get to the real bottom of it. What does it really mean? I mean, you and I probably read all sorts of articles about smart cities, right? And how different approaches, different cities are approaching their own personal smart city initiatives. But I do think that ultimately, globally, we need to come to a common understanding and a common language, because it's only when we develop a common language, a common understanding, that we can move forward together on what I would refer to as projet de société. It's a project for society, for global society, that we begin to appreciate that. And also, smart cities, in my experience, has been that you need to draw from international experiences. And for example, I belong to the World Data Institute Council, I should say, that we believe that data is extremely important in developing smart cities, because it allows me to compare my city to Kiev, for example, right? To see what you're doing. What are your best practices? How are you achieving success? And how can my experience help you in your city? But unless you have data that is utilized and mined, that term mined, we need to mine the data. We need to extract the knowledge from that data to provide us with the statistics, the facts, the figures, the conditions to help us in the decision-making process. Unless we have that, then it's very difficult to understand globally where the advances are being made in smart city. So, for example, I was a few years ago. I was a speaker at a conference in Dubai about essentially, some of the things that I've been talking to you about, and then went to Israel to also meet with some individuals with representatives from the Fuel Choices and Smart Mobility Initiative. It was a project that was led by Israeli Prime Minister's office, and then we learned from experiences in the United States, and today obviously we're connected with Ukraine, and this is forever evolving. But what we soon realized in our approach to smart city is that while our actions may be local, the impact is global, and through data, we now know where we stand internationally on healthcare and education, on transit, on walkability, on environmental sustainability, on health, on healthcare, as I stated earlier, on all these factors, and so what that does is it allows you to analyze your own smart city initiative through the prism of the international community. And what are the best practices out there? What have people done? What projects are underway? And this is very liberating in the sense that, as I often say, Yuriy, the beauty of humanity is that every question that we can ask has an answer. And that is very powerful. And so it is powerful so that when I look at how we cooperate with other countries, you could ask yourself a question related to, related to, in actual terms, what is the definition of a smart city, and what are people in Kiev saying, what are people in Milan saying, what are people in Texas saying, what is the general consensus of the international community. And I departed, you probably noticed today, I departed a little bit from what has been the common language that we've talked about. I departed because I see so much greater potential than perhaps most other people when it comes to smart city. I believe that we're very fortunate that, and I owe a great deal of gratitude to the people that were actually engaged many years prior to my personal involvement in smart city. I'm very grateful to them because I think they opened up a door for further study and further thinking, and perhaps, this notion of a smart city being an equalizer in democratic terms is something that is worth diving into a little bit more. The broadening of it, of the subject matter, is, I think, essential. And may I say, Yuriy, it's probably natural, right? Because this topic is an evolving topic. There's always new scientific evidence. There's always new discoveries. There's also the shift of human beings' way of thinking. If you look at our, a generation, 2 generations ago, if you look at my generation, laptops didn't exist, right? Yeah. Back in the day, right? Fax machines, I think, came up when I was in high school or something like that, or university. Obviously, so the frame of reference for a young person today is very different than our own. So we have to accommodate those changes. But generally speaking, the ultimate goal of the smart city still remains the same, which means, and I stress this point once again, because it's a point that I do want to make, is that it comes down to how does the smart city applications help improve the quality of life, standard of living, broaden opportunities. And it's a very fascinating field because it's a field that emerged from dialogue amongst people that wanted to really improve quality of life for the population. And now we have what I think is a very powerful tool for so many things, which is a constant reminder about life. Sometimes, when you plant good seeds, good things come from it. And it's very important, though, to make sure that you're nurturing that thought, that you're watering the plant, to use an analogy, because that knowledge can, in fact, result in some major gains for humanity. Because one of the things that I noticed speaking to people throughout the world about smart city is that it tends to focus people's attention on their fundamental challenges and how we can address them in ways that perhaps other approaches didn't. But this does. This actually does. So in our city, for example, we have a mobility program now that is trying to that the ultimate goal is really facilitating and making our transit system more efficient, our road networks more efficient, more safe. And that is really something that came as a result of our commitment to smart city. And so the beauty of smart city is that it's not a silo. It's not like, okay, we're building a smart city. No, it's right across the board. It's right across society. It's right across our community. It affects from recreation services to community services to the way you plan physical infrastructure, the way you also organize a society to take care of sort of the psychological, spiritual space of individuals. So why do I say that? And let me give you an example. You could have a park that has soccer fields, basketball courts, skateboard park. You can have all that. But you could also have a park that is a place for people to be in solitude, for introspection, for to go to a place to perhaps, meditate and contemplate. Those are all realities. You need places for people to obviously exercise and play their games, but you also need a place where people can be there to reflect, to recharge, and that's part and parcel of our approach towards being smart as a city, because you're creating opportunities for personal development and spiritual growth that is also part of life, and those things have to be factored in. It cannot be just we've got this app, and so when your bus is coming, or you can book a ticket for a show. Those are all great. I mean, they're very convenient. Today during COVID-19, a lot of our residents here, are using Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats, all that. It's fantastic, but it's got to go beyond that. And I do think that even the spiritual component of a city, and I don't mean this necessarily in religious terms. I mean this generally speaking as a way for people to enhance their well-being, has to be factored in. It cannot be denied as part of a smart city strategy. So Yuriy, I just wanted to thank you so much for this opportunity to share this time with you. I thought that since we spoke earlier, we wanted to introduce maybe a topic that may inspire further conversation, and I think in large part we've been able to do that because we did broaden today the dialogue and also the scope of what the meaning of a smart city is. And I do think that in some ways we've also challenged ourselves to use smart city as a way to really play a greater role in civic life, and I think that essentially is what this journey that we're on, people that care about smart city, is truly all about. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. For me it was very interesting, and for me it's a big honor to listen your speech. And I'm impressed of complex and fundamental vision of city management from your side, and I would recommend to Ukrainian mayors look this short talk discussion, and thank you very much. This is Mayor of Vaughan City, Smart Mayor, Maurizio, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your kind invitation.
Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it. Thank you. Yeah. Stay safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Be well.